for taking the time out of your day to join me. I know it's right before summer, so I want to thank you for taking the time to do that.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
So how's your day? How was the last day of school for you?
You know, the last day is always, as they say, bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's sweet because you get to see the students, you get to see their success, and you get to see the final part of their high school career.
Yeah.
But it's bitter because you know that you may never see them again. And we don't hear from them again.
I can add something. So like the main reason I'm doing this is because I feel like a lot of times with teachers, we see them every day, but we're not really connected to them. So I wanted to learn more about you and your experiences and what advice you may have for people my age.
Okay.
So the first question is, looking back at your childhood and teenage years, what experiences or lessons shaped you into the person you are today?
Probably, of course, it always starts with your parents. My father was a businessman, and my mother was actually a school secretary. So I kind of grew up in and around schools, and so that became an important part of my life. And then I was involved in athletics. And in high school, I was actually a student athletic.
Can you speak a bit more? I know
Sure. In high school, I was In high school, I was a student athletic trainer working with all the sports and really enjoyed that. And then that helped me decide where to go to college and what to study in college. And then I became an athletic trainer and started working in a sports medicine clinic, an industrial medicine clinic, and then ended up managing a couple of hospital-based sports medicine clinics. And then went back to being an athletic trainer in high school. And that's how I ended up eventually here.
That's good to hear. So you were mostly involved in medicine most of your life?
Yes, since high school on.
Number two is, who are the biggest influences in your life growing up, whether mentors, family, or personal heroes?
It would probably, of course, start with my parents, setting an example to follow. And then I had a coach who was also a history teacher, who was had a big influence in his teaching style and the way he related to the students. And in college, I had a professor that was very instrumental in wanting to follow the route of education. And just actually co-workers I worked with do a great job of encouraging me to do more. Here we have some outstanding teachers. Miss Dineham is an amazing teacher. And so when you're working with people like that, you raise your game and you want to do well. And then of course there's Miss Springer, who is truly instrumental in the way this school runs and this district runs, to tell the truth. And when you work with somebody who loves students, who loves this community, that kind of sets the tone for the whole building. And of course then Dr. Hunt, who has been in this district for 35 years. No one, cares more about these students and this community than Dr. Hunt. And so when that's your example to follow, it's easy to learn what's important. It's easy to learn the priorities, and it's easy to fall into place in taking care of students and helping them become better people, great individuals. And of course, I learn a lot from my students. They are truly, the students here are amazing. For an example, you have a blog. We have students that are doing research. We have amazing art students that are all rights professionals. So that when you are working with individuals that have so much going on.
Hey, Ray, do you have your keys? This gate is down, so you'll have to go for resources more.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Students that have much going on. It is exciting, and I love from them. They bring in information from the outside, and that motivates me to even try even harder to relate to them to learn about what they're doing, because that's the part I love about teaching is the relationships and seeing what you guys are doing and how what you have to offer and what the change you guys are going to make. That's the greatest part of this job.
Yeah. And then the follow-up question I had for that was, you worked in med for a long time. What made you want to come back to teaching?
So I worked in medicine for a long time. I worked in hospitals. I worked in sports medicine clinics. I worked in industrial medicine clinics.
What type of medicine did you practice at the hospital?
So I worked in the rehab and physical therapy department. After somebody would have surgery, we would be one of the first people to get them out of bed, to train them or help them walk or do what exercises they needed to do. We also worked with behavioral health patients while they were being treated in behavioral health. One of the things that benefits them is exercise. We have a very large section for eating disorders. We work with the people in the behavioral health under the eating disorders, working with them as far as their diet and their exercise. We also worked with several teams in that area so that when their athletes got injured, the doctors would look at them and then we would see them for physical therapy. So that's kind of where I started in the medicine end of it, and I worked in an industrial medicine clinic where we would do employment screenings, physicals. We took care of people when they got hurt from the job. We did drug screens, we did assessments, and then I worked in outpatient physical therapy clinics that you see like on the streets. That just people would come in for their outpatient physical therapy. Usually, they're prescribed by a doctor and they're going through their rehab and their exercises. And eventually, what happened was, as I started to have a family, my wife was busy with her job, and her job involved travel, and so that would be too much for both of us. And so I went back into teaching because then I had more opportunity to be at home with our children. And I've always enjoyed working in high schools. I've always enjoyed working with high school athletes. I've always enjoyed teaching high school students. And so that was an easy one to come back to.
Yeah. The next one is, how was your college experience like? I'm curious because the time that you went to college and I went to college is very different. So what are some similarities you see and what are some differences that you see in?
Okay, so I did my undergraduate at TCU. And when I started, it was $90 a semester out.
Wow.
University of Texas, while I was a freshman, changed their fees from $4 an hour to $12 an hour. And for $150, you could take unlimited classes. So that's probably the biggest difference. Another thing that's really is different is how competitive it is now. When I went to college, it was basically, okay, I have a diploma, I've taken the SAT, I apply to a college, and there was enough colleges out there, and probably not as many people trying to get into college. And so that, especially in education and teaching, so that you could get into a college. Nowadays, it's so competitive, and it is competitive in the way that you're doing so much more to try to get into that college. You're doing SAT prep, you're doing ACT prep, you're trying to
All these clubs and everything.
all these activities that you're getting aligned in, and all the research you're trying to do, and all of the application process is a lot harder, and so that it's very difficult for kids just to do that part of it. There almost should be like a class, College 101, for seniors to say, okay, this is how you do it, this is what you have to do. Oh, by the way, you're taking all these AP classes and all these AP courses because you want to do that, so that will help you get into college. That you guys are under so much strain and pressure to get into college that it's totally different than when I was. And there's a competitiveness within the school here. As far as you're kind of competing with everybody to try to get into those top tier schools.
Yeah.
And so that kind of creates another layer of stress that you guys are going through that we didn't have when I was in high school, because basically, okay, you want to go to college, you found a college. Here, it's because of that competitiveness, you're competing with your buddies in a way to try to do everything to get into one of the premier schools of the state.
Yeah.
So it's totally different than when I went.
So how did you get into like an IB back in the day?
So basically, how you did it back then was you knew somebody, or you were a legacy, or you had a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
And every now and then, you would have that exceptional student that was the premier student. Then they would go through the Ivy League process. But most people didn't think about going to an Ivy League school because, you growing up in Texas, you knew that there was always Texas A&M, there was always Texas. Then you had the Texas Tech and all the other Texas schools. So that you didn't really need to go to an Ivy League. Yeah. There wasn't that pressure. Oh, you need to do that because it's going to be a lot easier to stay in state and certainly a lot cheaper.
Keeps turning off. The next question is, what was one of the toughest moments of your career, and what did it teach you about perseverance? This is like a self-help channel, so I was wondering if you had any stories to tell based on that.
So, probably the kind of a turning point in my career or life was when I worked in a hospital, and you would work with a patient, and you would come in the next day, and there wasn't anybody in the bed, and they were sanitizing the bed, or they were just cleaning up the room, and you knew that there had been a change, and that kind of changes your attitude. You realize that coming to work late, or having something, a problem with your boss, or suddenly all those things aren't near as important as what is happening around you. And so it kind of changes your perspective. And you realize that some things are a lot more important than others. And so working in a hospital is an education in itself.
I've heard, I saw this one on TikTok the other day. It was like you like graduated high school, graduated college, like volunteer in a hospice, because it kind of changes your perspective on how you think about life and how you think about pathology stuff too.
But you've got to be at a certain point of your life to kind of understand that.
Yeah.
Just doing it right out of high school.
I think I'm like too young to understand what's going on.
Exactly, and it would put kind of a damper on your attitude and your excitability and your optimism.
Yeah.
And so you wait until you kind of got your path, and it certainly helps you deal with as your parents get older and see that, because you've kind of had that experience and you know what to expect and you know what's important, and you realize that time is the most important asset that you have.
Yeah. The next question is, compared to like most of my other teachers, you have a very hands-off approach to how we do classwork, and your whole teaching style is very freeing compared to other teachers. So what influenced your style of teaching?
One, I think that luckily I teach a course or a curriculum that is kind of growing, and you can use a lot of things from current events, especially in the field of medicine and technology and inventions and discoveries that are happening all the time. So that kind of frees things up. Two, I have exceptional students. I have students that are driven, they're motivated, they have an idea of what they want to do, they want to make a change, they're compassionate, they want to help others. And so then it's easy, because all I do is say, okay, here it is, take it as far as you want to, find out what interests you, and then go with it.
Yeah.
And so that is the greatest thing, because there's times I'll have an assignment, and students will turn in something that is by far farther than I expected in the work that they have done, and that's what's the best part. It's like, for example, your artwork. You know, you have this talent that people say, "Oh, he's an artist," but then all of a sudden, when you are just let go and have time, then you can channel into what you want to do, and you create something that's amazing. That's the same with the students I have in class. I have students that do that. You know, a couple years ago, that were doing research with UT Southwestern that is cutting edge in cancer treatment, and so it's kind of like, you know, they're coming in telling me this is what we're doing, and so okay, let's figure out how we can do something in class that lets lets you show what you're doing and inform the other students and get everybody excited about what you can do as young people. That is just, that's the great part of this job, and because I'm fortunate that we have amazing students here that all of a sudden all you have to do is kind of lead the way, and they will come. And that's the greatest part of this job.
Yeah. The next question is, what are your 3 most memorable moments in teaching, in your entire teaching history? I know you worked at other schools before, so if you had any stories from there, that would be nice.
You know, every year at graduation is a memorable moment, because I'm fortunate, a lot of times I've had students for 3 years, and to see them walk across that stage, you know, I know you said 3, but I'm going to say graduation is one of them, because that is the accumulation of their success, and watching them grow and get ready to go out into the world and have an impact on people, and you know, change the world for the better. That's got to be 1. 2 is you know, worked in athletics several, you know, different places for several years.
Were you like a coach as well?
Athletic trainer, working with all the teams. And so it's funny, you work and you get excited over the success of the athletes and what they accomplish. And so anytime you have an athlete that you've worked with that has, you know, come back from, say, rehab or surgery or something, you know, that they've had to work hard to get to. I've had a few athletes that have done that and have come back and played, and maybe even, you know, gone on to college. That's a memorable moment. I've had athletes that have, you know, gone on to the NFL or professional baseball, and so that's kind of fun to say, I remember when they were in high school, and so that's always memorable.
So, yeah, hopefully that's me with the cricket too.
Yeah,
It's in the Olympics, so there's a chance I could maybe work my way there.
And see, that's what is so awesome, is to see somebody, you know, succeed and to become a you know, a professional or a premier or one of the best in their field. That is, you look up and you say, I remember that. I remember him. I remember her. And it's almost like they're taking a little bit of you with them.
Yeah.
So.
The next question is, what is your what do you think is your best skill, and how has it contributed to your success?
Best skill. Well, it would depend on who you ask. My wife would probably tell you there's not too many of them. But probably getting to know people, and the individual one-on-one is what I really, that's the thing that means the most to me. It's because that's where I think I get to learn about the students, and I get to meet so many people. That's the greatest part of this whole job. It's the greatest part of life, is the contacts you make, and the the sharing. You learn from me, I learn from you, and the kind of becoming closer. That's the greatest part of this job. That's one of my things I would say is probably a strength that I have. And it certainly means the most to me.
Especially as a teacher too, meeting people. Like every year, the entire circle of people you would changes.
And your experiences changes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're talking about you're going to India. I've never been to India, but I learn about India through you. I learn about the culture of people from another country through you. I learn about the relationships that you have with your friends, and a lot of that's because of your culture. So I learn even more through you than you might even learn through my class, and that's what's important.
All right, I'll stop and get the next step. We're almost done. Okay, since I'm heading into college, are there any heads up you'd like to give me, or any regrets that you might have had in your college experience to tell me to avoid?
The greatest thing about college is you will meet so many people, and you will have professors that are amazing, that know their field. You take your best teacher in high school, and then there's a big difference in between teachers in high school and teachers in college. So that we just drink it up, take it in, because you have an opportunity to learn from people who may be the premier teachers in that field, or doing amazing research. And try to get to know your professors. Don't be necessarily intimidated. Go to study sessions, go to lab hours, go to office hours to try to get to know the professors, because it'll raise your game up. You'll realize that that's where I want to go, or that's a great place to learn from.
It also helps with getting research with them later too.
Exactly, or at least somebody that can write you a letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
Another thing is you're going to be there with people who you're going to run across that are brilliant. You're even some of the students may be brilliant, and so learn from them, talk to them, pair up with them, because if you're with somebody who performs at a higher level than you do, it can't help but bring you up.
Yeah.
It's
iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. You probably see it in your cricket. If you're playing somebody who's not that good, you play down to their level. But if you're playing somebody who's good, all of a sudden you've got to raise your game. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing in college. They say you're the average of your 5 closest friends, so that make sure those friends are going to raise your average up.
Yeah.
Another thing is do it all. A lot of people think, I've got to go to college and I'm going to study and I'm going to, then I'm going to apply to medical school and I'm going to study. Well, there's a whole life out there in college. Be a part of it. Take it in, because that's where you grow. That's where you possibly get out of your comfort zone. That's where you build more relationships. That's kind of where you find out what's important to you. And so do it all, take it all in.
The next question is, what's the most valuable self-improvement advice you've ever heard, and how has it impacted your life?
Probably the one most important thing is to look at something that right then and there may be important to you, and ask yourself, in 3 years, is it going to be that important? Because think about life, and you think about college, and you think about school, and we think it's a sprint. If I get to the next point, if I get to the next one, if then the next assignment, the next class. But life's a marathon. And so look up and say, okay, is this really that important? Am I going to remember this 3 years from now? Am I going to remember this a year from now? Am I going to remember this 2 months from now? And then just kind of set back. The other thing is wait 24 hours. We used to always have a rule that if you got, say, an angry parent that sends you an email, wait 24 hours before you respond. Or if you have an employee that you work with and they get mad at you, and instead of reacting, wait 24 hours, then come back to it because you'll have a totally different perspective. And then, in the instant, when you're stressed or you're anxious or you've been confronted with somebody over a situation, is count to 10. And after you count to 10, see what they're trying to say. Don't react. Count to 10, relax, then say, what are you trying to say? Is this what you mean? Because then you'll get a better understanding. And they get a chance to kind of calm down and slow down. And then you can actually have a conversation.
It like kind of eases the pressure between both the parties.
Exactly, because a lot of times they may just be reacting. And so you're going to automatically want to react. But you know what, if I step back and I count to 10 and I think, okay, what are they trying to say to me? Why are they upset? Then I can figure out what the problem is instead of reacting to them.
Yeah. 2 more questions.
Sure.
So, these are both like kind of short ones. Out of like all the things me and Sai have done in class, what is the one that stood out to you the most?
When you made a coffin out of tables and chairs, and he pretended to be dead, because I didn't know if we should have some kind of service, or if there was going to be some kind of memorial. I didn't know.
Was there something earlier on in the year that like stood out to you?
The funny thing is it's entertaining, and so when you guys act like you're being silly, and that's fine, because in a way you're getting to act and learn, and in a way kind of become express a different part of your personality that you may not get to express very often.
Yeah.
And in your case, you get to be on the stage, and that's fine. As long as it doesn't get too wild or too out of control. And inside, it gives him a chance to open up, because really in class he's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
But when he's with you, he gets to change and gets to,
My friends have a joke that I bring up the worst in people, like the wild side of them.
But you know what? That may not be the worst. It may be it gives them a chance to act differently or be different than what they feel they have to be.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Thank
As
you
long
for
as it
putting up
stays
with all
within
the,
control.
Yeah, thank you for putting up with all of our shenanigans over the year.
that-
I don't know any other teachers that would
No.
allow us to have like a mock funeral for the side. And then the last question is, I know that you like quotes and you have a new quote every day in class. So it was, you have one quote, you can only pick one quote to share with the viewers. What would it be?
To thy own self be true. From William Shakespeare.
That's a good one. That's a good one to get off the video with.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Poole. Have a great summer.
You too.
Yeah.
And good luck in the cricket.
Thank you.
Let me know.
Yeah, yeah. I was wondering if we can exchange contacts.
Sure.
Yeah. My phone's dead, so I'll give you my number.